We reassess properties here in Staunton every 2 years. Some larger localities based on population may reassess every year. Smaller localities or counties may reassess every 3, 4, 5 years, or a maximum of 6 years between assessments. The professional government assessment organization known as IAAO is specifically cited in state law. We follow the guidelines of IAAO and Virginia Department of Taxation. Per Virginia law, the target assessment rate that we must aim for is 100% of fair market value. So the definition of fair market value is essentially, it's the most probable price that a property is going to bring in an open market between a knowledgeable buyer and a seller who are both acting prudently and knowledgeably. Neither is under duress, neither is bound to sell or to buy. Reasonable exposure time has been exposed to the market and typical financing is being used. So IAAO, we use mass assessment, utilizes standard procedures, data collecting, and statistical analysis. We look at a larger representation of local data, i.e. sales, rental rates, capitalization rates, expenses, or what pure costs are. So with mass assessment, we've got 3 approaches to value: sales comparison, cost approach, or income approach. So single-family home is predominantly used by the sales comparison approach. If you heard it once, you've heard it 1,000 times: location, location, location. We have 66 identified market area neighborhoods throughout Staunton of like and similar properties. Some neighborhoods are more or less comparable than others, and of course, even within neighborhoods, there are a myriad of variables, but many similarities. Some of the notable attributes we're going to look at and consider are age of the property, physical condition, recent renovations, quality of construction, square footage, number of bathrooms, exterior wall types, type of HVAC, basement or no basement, any unfinished areas, or land size, topography, and other features such as the home has a garage, patios, decks, fireplaces, etc. So assessed values do follow the market. The assessed values are the cart and the market is the horse. Assessed values will track and follow. If the market goes up, then assessed values are going to go up. If the market does go down, we will follow it down as well. It is very important to note that assessed values are not based on budgetary needs or political considerations. After the real estate assessed values are set, City Council looks at the budget, other funding sources, and after public hearing will set the actual tax rate. It is the local elected officials that set the rate. The assessor's office is mandated by the state to set the assessments to be reflective of 100% of fair market value. It is the local officials, whether it be City Council or your Board of Supervisors, that have the power and discretion to set the rate. So in Staunton, the council, after public meetings and discusses the budget, invites public comment and set the annual rate, usually in April. The real estate tax base represents nearly 50% of the funds necessary to fuel the government functions and services provided. Of that real estate tax base, the residential side is around 72%, and the commercial, industrial, and tax-exempt properties represent about 13% each. As of January 1st, 2025, we've got 11,695 parcels with a total tax base of around $3.39 billion. 3.9 total assessed value, and what's being taxed is like nearly 3.4 billion. So for 25, the median increase from 23-24 cycle was around 14.5% for residential properties. There were 1,090 sales that took place in 23 and 24, and we used those sales and market data to set the 25 assessment. So after all the assessments have been made, and City Council will have established a tax rate, all that information along with ownership information, property description, and tax details are reported in what is known as the land book. And then this information is forwarded to the treasurer, and that is from where the treasurer formulates and issues the tax bills. So the Virginia Department of Taxation monitors our assessment levels to ensure fairness, equity, and statutory compliance. So we submit ratio studies to compare assessed values to qualified sales. So the state further monitors our ratios and also items such as the taxable fair market value fair market value by property class, taxable land use values, tax rates, any special tax districts we have in the area, and total exempt values. So we're closely monitored by the Virginia Department of Taxation. And so ultimately, we certainly answer to the citizens of the Staunton City Council, City Manager, and the Department of Taxation of the state. As previously mentioned, we perform general assessments every 2 years. A reassessment does not automatically mean that the values are going to increase, but it does mean an analysis of all the properties in the city. Here's an example of the real estate assessment notice that's sent out at the end of January. The state mandates what information must be shown on the assessment notice and how it's shown. So at the bottom columns, it's going to show the previous assessments, previous taxes, how much, if the real estate tax rate was unchanged, what the taxes will be, and the percent change between each of those years. The other part of the notice gives other important information as far as hearing dates, how, if you need to request an assessment review by the city assessor or board of equalization, and also gives legal advisement of your rights to obtain certain property records. So what happens if a property owner disagrees with the new assessment? All right, we have an open and accessible framework on how to appeal. The appeal must meet certain deadline requirements, and there must be a valid basis for appealing. Either the owner believes that the property is assessed at greater than or less than fair market value, that the assessment was not reached in an equitable manner with other like and similar properties, or if there's an error or errors on the property. The tax rate or taxes itself is not a basis for appeal to the department level or the Board of Equalization. So we assess properties. We do not assess personal financial situations. Based on an appeal, one of three things are going to happen: a reduction of the assessment, a no change in assessment, or, we're not trying to play a gotcha, but if we go out there and we find out something different than we have on the record, such as square footage is less, it's more, and we have to increase the square footage, or something's finished off that we don't have in the record, we'll have to increase it. In 2025, we probably had 11,695 parcels of that. During the appeal period, we had around 160 calls and or inquiries, emails coming in that way. Actual office level appeals, we probably had around 45 to 50. And the ultimate number that eventually went to the Board of Equalization was 5 people. And of that, I recommended to change it. Yeah, so it's like 0.01%. It's a very small percentage. And ultimately, people can appeal their case to the circuit court. We have the authority to go on the property, but we will never, ever, ever request. We'll request to go inside, but never say we have to come inside. Never.
Even if there's an appeal?
Even if it's an appeal. We would certainly request, because we would like to know what the interior condition is so we can make a more accurate decision. But it's not required. We're not going to push that. This is just an example of the assessment appeal application. So the appellant themselves, they either have to be the owner or a authorized representative. So documentation, comparables, and factual evidence are crucial to have a potential successful appeal. While we do not use Zillow and there's estimates, I do recognize their popularity and quick accessibility by homeowners to roughly gauge the value of their homes. So Zillow uses their own proprietary formula, and they look at regional sales. They'll even use listing prices to throw in there. If it's a foreclosed sale, they'll use those too. So you can have the values tracking like this, and Zillow go up and they'll go way down. But it is a good tool to kind of get a feel for what your value is. And I also believe it's important, usually to remember that the assessment is set January 1st of every other year. So as the market's typically continuing to go up, you've got that assessed value that goes up, and it's going to stay flat for 2 years. So then you're going to, in trailing first year, and certainly most of the second year, your value is still up here, but your assessed value is down here. So if it makes you kind of feel any better, The only time that you're really hitting right near that 100% of assessment to fair market value is as of January 1st every other year. And here's a representative sale that took place in 2024. It was used among many other sales that took place in 24. Set the new assessment, but the assessment to sale ratio at the time that it was listed for sale and going for sale was around 82%. So this actually was a home that I toured and looked at because when I was in the market for buying a home last year. So this home sold for $24,000, typical. Good bones, good neighborhood, but a very dated interior, clean house. But it sold for $24,000 over the property, over the list value, on the market only 3 days before it went under contracts. And then when we set that reassessment, we ended up being, the assessment ratio was around 99.8%, pretty much at the bullseye. Some of our typical daily, weekly, and monthly functions are we process property transfers, either sales or wills or gifts. We perform sales inspections, conduct field inspections. Sometimes we do desk reviews, GIS reviews of the properties, data entry, sketching of properties, field citizen inquiries by email, phone, or when they come in. Process address changes, creation of new lots. We've got a couple new subdivisions down in Bell Creek. And we building permits for new construction or additions to homes and things like Wawa coming on board. We're going to go out there and measure that and put that on the record, things of that nature. So some special cases that we deal with assessments. Some of those that are tax exempt, like we mentioned, churches, government buildings, charitable, museums, cultural, and schools, they're all tax exempt. If it's a certain class of property or it's identified in the state code as a particular exempt property, like the Frontier Museum or Mary Baldwin, a non-profit higher education, that's all tax exempt. We also have the residential commercial partial tax exemption incentive programs. So the property's got to be at least 25 years old. As far as the commercial industrial, the improvements or renovations got to increase that value by at least 60% without increasing the square footage. If it's a residential, the renovation or replacement has got to increase the value at least 40% without increasing the square footage by no more than 15%. Building permits must be applied for. Inspection must occur prior to work to establish a base value. So they get a tax break between the ultimate end renovated value minus the base value. So they get a partial tax exemption for 7 years. So there's three notable rehab properties. You got the Staunton Steam Laundry Apartments, the Arcadia Building, which is next to the Arcadia Theater. That's like 23 new apartment units with a commercial on the bottom. Very nice property. When they got in there, I think it was like worth $360,000. It was completely gutted and terrible inside. It's now worth $4 million or so. And of course, a residential property on Coulter Street. Downtown Service District, this is another little special, the special district. So they pay the normal tax rate and they pay an additional 15 cents per hundred. So the additional revenue goes to promote economic and business development and some promotional activities and things of that nature. And if you want to learn more about that, and go to the Staunton Downtown Development Association website. The median number of homes sold per month from January to June of 23, 24, and 25 has remained pretty consistent. Certainly 24 was the strongest of the three. Median increase in sales price for the first 6 months of 25 is around 5.4%. And I joke, but this cartoon has been around for a while. It's like how your home is seen by you, your buyer, your appraiser, and your local friendly tax assessor. So thank you for being engaged and learning about your local government. And